here we are.
What do you say to, I still hear people asking or saying, isn't this like the flu? Or this is like, there's a lot of TV doctors that put the word doctor in front of their first name. That means that they're experts, but also very personable. And then because they've like given relationship advice in the past, they now fancy themselves virologists and try to claim that this is like no worse than the flu or whatever, which is, I mean, one, that's neglecting the fact that we have a flu shot.
Yes. And we have a flu shot for a specific reason.
Yeah.
I always tell my patients when I'm trying to convince them to get their flu shot, I'm like, if all the flu did was just made you feel like crap for a couple of days, we wouldn't have bothered to make a vaccine. Because doctors aren't that nice. If you just felt like crap for a few days, just feel like crap for a few days and then go back to work.
Yeah, that's why there's no cold department. I'm always like, why aren't we getting rid of the cold? That's what I want. But it's just not a big enough priority.
We don't have a rhinovirus vaccine because I don't know the exact numbers, but the vast majority of people do not die from the rhinovirus. So if it's just that you felt like crap for a few days, we're just not that nice as doctors and researchers. We just let you ride that out and move on. Is that it kills people. That's why we developed the flu vaccine. Yeah. Because it is associated with deaths and mortality that is prevented or at least ameliorated when you get that vaccine. And on top of it, we do have an oral treatment. It's not perfect, also Tamivir, that if you take it within the first couple of days, your severity of your flu is not as severe, and you're sick for a lot shorter. So we have developed strategies to deal with the flu because we recognize the flu was bad. So to compare flu numbers to COVID and flu numbers for an infection that we have a vaccine for, some years the vaccine is better than others. This year wasn't so great. And we're not going to have accurate flu numbers this year because after a while, anyone who presented with a flu-like illness, we just assume you had COVID. So those numbers are going to be mixed up for this year. So yes, but COVID is definitely, from all the data we have so far, is way more infectious than the flu. And it's killing a lot of people. So yeah, you can't compare at all. At all. So it's a false equivalency. And I really would like people to stop that.
I know, me too.
When this all started, when the outbreak was really like flaring up in late February, early March, and I remember turning to one of my colleagues and saying, yeah, this is way scarier than Ebola. He's just like, really? Wow. Because I was like, yeah. I wasn't that scared when I went to Sierra Leone during the Ebola epidemic because it was transmitted through the mucosa and through breaks in skin. So as I could get this close to you, and I'm not getting Ebola.
Yeah.
So I could still go, as long as I was washing my hands, the minute I came home, I took off all my clothes, took a shower. Yeah. When I was in Sierra Leone, took off all my clothes, took a shower. Poof. I felt like I was safe and home free.
Just don't go skateboarding and you're fine with Ebola as long as you're not covered in scrapes and stuff like that, essentially.
Yeah. And not touching and interacting. Right. So as long as you didn't touch anybody, you were safe. With COVID, it doesn't matter if I'm not touching you. If you're in my space and you're breathing that virus and I breathe that in, I'm getting infected.
Once winter comes around again and people start getting the sniffles, how is that going to exacerbate the situation once people are sneezing and germy otherwise and throw a little COVID in that mix?
I mean, all the experts that have been looking at this, and this is probably a place where that Nina probably has tons of great numbers for you, is that we're expecting a second wave this fall. Because people will be more indoors. And we know very clearly that being indoors, people are in closer proximity, so it's easier to spread. We know, again, as I said earlier, that when the air is cold and dry, droplets travel further. So, again, when it's 90 degrees with 100% humidity and I cough, the droplets probably maybe make it a foot or two before they fall because of the humidity brings those droplets down to the ground with gravity pretty quickly. When the air is cold and dry, those droplets can travel much further. So between that, the fact that we'll be in more close proximity again, we don't really know yet about the interaction with other viral infections. Like we do know that like with this first outbreak and this first wave, that people were having both flu and coronavirus together. I don't think we have enough data to yet, and I'm not sure if anyone's published any studies, and they have. I apologize if it's out there because I'm not aware of the data about if flu plus SARS together is much worse than either one separately. My default answer would be yes, but I don't know the exact data about that. So again, when the fall comes, there's going to be the flu's coming back. The flu's not going to hibernate because SARS is going to be with us in the fall. All the other things, adenovirus, all the other viral respiratory infections that come out in the fall and the winter will be coming back out again as well. So I think some people are optimistic. I unfortunately am taking the more pessimistic route, is that I think we're going to see a big upsurge in cases this fall and winter.